This is the story of the 10 days that changed my life more than I expected. If you're new here, my name is Sarah, and last year I went to China. So here's what really happened. Before this trip, I was terrified of the idea of a solo trip, being photographed or messing up when I spoke Mandarin. But that fear, it was quickly put to rest when I landed in Shanghai airport and I had to learn how to ask how to change my ticket and where is my luggage in Mandarin. It was a rocky start, dear reader, and I won't lie. I was stressed and panicking. But thankfully, I had a lovely layover buddy, Salma, who helped where she could before she had to fly to Beijing. And then upon arriving at our hotel in Beijing, I got to meet a long-distance friend from Belgium.
Sleep is essential. South Island.
And then suddenly, it was day one in Beijing, and we were going to be visiting the Forbidden City. Now, this is not my first time in China. This was my second trip to China, so I expected to know what it would be like, and yet everything felt louder, bigger, and more alive. But somehow, at the same time, I felt so comfortable. I felt like I had returned home. Being with such a large group of people who were all at different stages of learning Mandarin, and then visiting one of the world's icons in the Forbidden City, honestly, it healed something in me that I didn't realize my first trip to China broke. And it got me excited about the idea of traveling more and turning my travels into videos like this, because it feels a little like a diary. Honestly, editing this has made me so nostalgic for both this trip and China in general. This was our first outing as a group, and I guess you could say it was the first chance to make friends, truthfully. I didn't really think I was going to make many friends. If you know, you know. If you don't, you haven't watched my previous China video yet, have you? I didn't know if I would connect with anyone, but it was at this exact point in the video, dear reader, that I realized I was going to be just fine. There was something insanely special about being with these people for 10 days. Some who couldn't even speak English, and so many whose Mandarin was miles better than my own. I still remember these people today, and I still talk to them. This trip has given me lifelong friends from across the globe, and honestly, it made me fall in love with China again. And this was only the beginning of day 2. I was not ready for what would come in the rest of this trip. Now, if you've made it this far, dear reader, I think you should hit the subscribe button, because I do have some secret videos coming up of more travel that I think you'll love. Maybe even hit the like button and leave a comment. The algorithm loves that, and it helps me more than you can imagine. If you've been to the Great Wall of China, I think you can understand me when I say it doesn't matter how many times you visit. It's just as breathtaking each time. We only had an hour up here, and I wish it was more because it truly is one of my favorite places to visit. Having seen it in winter and now summer feels surreal. Here's hoping to spring and autumn next so I can collect them all, so to say. But with that, our time in Beijing came to an end. We wrapped up at the Great Wall and headed straight off to the airport to catch a flight to Fuzhou. I had never been to Fuzhou before, so I was excited to see what the city had to offer. But honestly, I didn't think I would love it as much as I did in the end.
要品江，我们福建的母亲河，来自福建的同学来，我想做一件事情哦，我现在的话呢，会用手机来拍。
Then it was day 4, and by this point, our house had become a little family. We were split onto 4 separate buses by continent, and truthfully, I think we had it pretty lucky with bus 2. It was the bus of Oceania and the Americas, and if you know anything about either of those locations, it was loud. At the time, I was annoyed when I was sleepy, but now looking back, I'm honestly so fond of all the laughter and music that occurred on our long bus rides. I think this was the first day where the heat really hit us all. Being from all over the world, I think some of us were more affected than others. But coming from New Zealand, I was so used to a mild climate that the heat and the sun, it was exhausting. We all stuck to the shade and brought out our fans. It was honestly interesting to see how so many of us were commiserating over the weather without even knowing each other's names.
可以呀、
And then it was finally time for me to participate in some extracurricular activities. I had been pretty jet lagged in the first few days, and honestly, I'm a bit of a homebody, so I often found myself way too tired to go out at night. But when karaoke was an option, and I had never been before, well, when in China, it was a bunch of fun just hanging out with people. We had a few drinks and spent the night singing some familiar tunes, horribly off key. And it was a really relaxed way to get to know some of the other people better, especially the people from other continents who I hadn't interacted with much. It was a blast. But alas, I am not a night owl, and I was ready to sleep for a long time after this. It was worth it though. And then it was day 5, and this trip was halfway over. I couldn't believe how quickly it had gone by already. But what I didn't know at the time was that this would become my favorite day of the trip. Da-da-da. The 3 lanes in 7 alleys district, or Sanfang Qixiang, stole my heart immediately. The buildings and the streets, they were gorgeous, and it felt like you were being transported back in time. I found myself mesmerized by every little alley or nook I found. Truthfully, I could have spent a whole day here, just walking around and exploring. There were some amazing shops and so many beautiful sights. Even now, I hope it's a place that I can go back to one day. I don't think that's something I realized until I started recording this, is that all of these places I visited, I want to return to. I'm not sick of them. I haven't seen enough of them. I could return tomorrow and I would be just as excited as I was the first time. And that's kind of amazing.
That's why they kept selling those.
But all good things must come to an end. After watching an amazing performance, we were given 20 minutes to wander around and pick up any knickknacks we wanted. Which, of course, we took very seriously. It was so funny to see a sea of Waigortian in the blue Hanyu Chao shirts running from store to store. Funnily, we then had a few hours off over lunchtime, and we decided to go to a random diner that we had never heard of. And honestly, it had the best Peking duck I have ever eaten. It was one of those wild moments where we weren't being shepherded somewhere by someone. Instead, we were just existing, just wandering on our own in a foreign country. Thankfully, the people I was with there were very proficient in Mandarin, but it honestly made for such a fun experience that I still treasure today.
With our one bites.
It's a
I love his coffee.
You like the you use itchy, you got the itchy whisker.
photos near the toilet.
基本上往往为了拍照。
调节扣带，并将多余的绳索回面向外垂到一侧。这是应该实现的地方。
By this point, I think we all felt like a family. It didn't matter if you recognized a person or not. If they were wearing the Hanyu Chao outfit, it was so comfortable to sit with them and just enjoy whatever was happening. I met people from Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas. And honestly, I don't know any other experiences that would allow me to meet so many unique people. We spent the evening cruising along the Minjiang River, having an almost mini party. There was a stunning cityscape to watch pass by, and beautiful performances. It was, again, one of those fun moments where everyone got together, regardless of what bus they were travelling on. Silly things like dance battles broke out, and there was just so much laughter in the air. It was a wonderful way to end the night.
Slay.
On this day, I also noticed just how many families were out and about and how many things were still happening even though it was late at night. It was a real difference from New Zealand and really interesting. Day 6 had dawned, and it was time to get moving again. Today was an indoor day, and funnily enough, the day I understood the least, but the day that inspired me creatively the most.
Hi, from Fuzhou.
It was really interesting seeing what a TV studio looked like, and honestly, it was a little wild to see how different people looked on professional cameras. We were then treated to a really fun, immersive experience that I don't know how to explain, but it was something we all seemed to be surprised by, and it was fun. Then it was time to move on to the highlight of the day for me. We got to see a show, Pingtan Impression, and honestly, I understood so little of the Mandarin. It was far above my level, but that didn't actually stop me from following the overall story because the actors were just that good. Of course, I had a favorite character, and it was Dormian, the many-faced man. He was so silly and he moved in ways that were so interesting. It reminded me of a lot of creatures and books I've read about, and it actually made me inspired to write again. So this ended up being a really surprising highlight for me. And then it was time for the reason we were all here, the finals of the 24th Chinese Bridge competition. I truly did not realize how visible we would be on camera. But I got a panda in exchange, so I couldn't be too mad about it.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. Everyone get them a wave. Whee! 可爱的。
It was so interesting being a part of this production and seeing all the work that goes into it and how well presented it was. It was really fun to be a part of and definitely a once in a lifetime experience. The top 5 students competing were amazing. Their Mandarin, to me, was flawless, and they were so confident being up there on stage. I actually ended up feeling very proud of them, especially the Australian girl. And it's funny because I had never met any of them. But like I said earlier, if you saw someone in the Hanyu Qiao shirt, you just knew they were family.
来两个
第几个？
啊？什么？
第几个尖字可以读成儿化音？
And then it was another moment of Sarah being in awe of China. Who is even surprised at this point? I think for me, coming from New Zealand, where everything is green and lush, but that's all there is, it's such an interesting experience for me to see like such contrasting aesthetics within one country. Does that make sense? I have to admit, I was weirdly fond of those wind turbines. Just the way they towered over the houses like a silent sentry, it was really interesting to me. We ended the night with a little concert on the Qixiang River, and honestly, it was a really fun way to wrap up the main point of this trip. And finally, it was the last day. It felt bittersweet today, knowing that tomorrow we would all be leaving, and truthfully, we would probably never see each other again. But we got to visit some touristy places today, and it felt like the perfect way to end the trip. Again, to no one's surprise, I thought the wind turbines were cool, but also just the way the little market stalls were right against the beach. I could have spent a whole day there just reading and relaxing. We wrapped up the day by visiting the 68 nautical mile spot, which is a place I never envisioned existing in China, before heading off to the last hotel for the night and saying goodbye. We all ended up sitting in the lobby, chatting and sharing snacks as we double-checked our flight itineraries and said our goodbyes. Some of us were leaving before dawn, and others not for another day. But this last moment with everyone, it kind of felt like the whole reason of the trip. The chance to get to know people you would otherwise never meet. And then it was time to head home. I think it was really bittersweet, but it was quite nice. I was with a few people who were on my bus for my flight to Shanghai, and then, of course, on my own from Shanghai to New Zealand much later that evening. But in typical me fashion, I whiled away the time reading, exploring shops, and just trying to recuperate after a really long 10 days. And now I'm home again and using my Mandarin more than ever, which I think is kind of the whole point of this trip, right? I had an amazing time and I have so much more to share with you guys as I have so many adventures planned this year. So if you've made it this far, thank you for watching, dear reader, and I will see you in the next one.